to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an ancient landscape that was literally overflowing with coveted spices, rare pearls, and massive rising empires. We're exploring the ancient Tamil landscape and the legendary rulers who strategically shaped and completely dominated it. We're talking about visionary leaders who built a foundation that honestly continues to influence history to this very day. It's an absolutely incredible story of ambition, so let's just get right into it.
Okay, I want you to consider this historical paradox for a second. How do three fiercely competitive rivals inadvertently create one lasting cultural identity? Usually when you've got three massive superpowers locked in this intense struggle for regional dominance, the result is just endless fracture and destruction, right? But here, the constant pushing and pulling, the one-upmanship, that territorial friction, it actually forged something indestructible. It's a fascinating contradiction, and it's exactly what we're going to unravel together as we dig into the historical data.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp the history of this region, we have to talk about the Moovendar. Now, this translates directly to the three crowned kings. For centuries, and I mean literally hundreds and hundreds of years, the Tamil landscape wasn't some chaotic free-for-all. No, it was ruled by these three specific, really powerful dynasties. They weren't just passing through the history books. They were the absolute bedrock of power in southern India, reigning over the land and completely defining their entire era.
So, we can kind of categorize this ancient Tamil landscape into three distinct spheres of power. Think of this as your mental cheat sheet. First up, we've got the Pandyas, historically known as the patrons, holding down their base in Madurai. Next are the Cheras, the masters of the coast, controlling, you guessed it, the western coast. And finally, the Cholas, the emperors, dominating the Kaveri Delta. Keep this map of power in your head as we go. These three players each brought a very specific, totally unique superpower to the table.
First up, let's zoom in on the Pandyas, the cultural patrons. These guys were brilliant. They actively cultivated intellect and the arts to make sure their influence expanded way beyond their physical borders. Based out of Madurai, the Pandyas pulled massive wealth from highly lucrative pearl diving. But here's the kicker. They didn't just hoard all that aquatic wealth. They used it to host the renowned Sangam academies. Think of these as the ultimate ancient think tanks, where the absolute greatest poets and scholars of the time gathered. Because they funded the minds of their generation, the Pandyas actually managed to maintain one of the oldest continuous kingdoms in all of India. Basically, the physical wealth they harvested from the ocean directly funded an intellectual wealth that outlasted almost everything else.
Now, let's shift our focus out westward to the Cheras, the masters of the coast. This western kingdom looked out across vast waters to build a massive, outward-looking commercial empire.
Now, what's really interesting to see here is the connection they established. I mean, what could possibly connect the Chera kingdom on the western coast of India all the way over to the mighty Roman Empire? Well, it was the highly lucrative spice trade. By controlling those western ports and the flow of these incredibly coveted spices, the Cheras held massive global economic power. They weren't just some regional kingdom, they were a critical, totally indispensable node in an international supply chain. They literally turned their natural agricultural resources into incredible commercial leverage with Rome.
Finally, we swing eastward over to the highly fertile Kaveri Delta to meet our third powerhouse, the Cholas, the maritime emperors. They harnessed this fertile delta to build up just immense naval and agricultural power.
The Cholas had an audacity that was just unmatched. Their goal was literally to, quote, build one of the greatest maritime empires in Asian history. We so often picture ancient empires as purely land-based things, right? Just marching armies across dusty plains. But the Cholas? They looked out at the ocean and saw an expansive highway for their ambition. Using the vast resources from their fertile agricultural base, they built fleets that allowed them to achieve an incredible scale of naval dominance. They projected their powers so far beyond their shores, creating an empire that essentially defined the Asian maritime landscape.
So, look at what we've got. We have the brilliant Pandyas, the globally connected Cheras, and the incredibly mighty Cholas, three fiercely independent, intensely competitive rivals. But despite their endless battles for supremacy, this continuous friction is exactly what forged a single Tamil identity. Their rivalry was the very crucible that shaped an identity much larger and way more permanent than any individual king or single dynasty.
So the crucial point is how these three distinct pieces fit together to build a powerful, unified legacy. You have the deep intellectual and literary foundation laid down by the Pandyas, then you add to that the global commercial reach pioneered by the Cheras, and finally you wrap the whole shebang in the unmatched imperial might of the Cholas.
Together, these distinct attributes combine to cement a single, highly resilient Tamil identity that absorbed the absolute best of all three worlds. It's just a brilliant historical lesson on how diverse strengths, even when locked in a fierce rivalry, can build an incredibly rich and enduring cultural identity.
Which leaves us with a really important question. How might our fierce modern rivalries be shaping the cultural identities of tomorrow in ways we can't yet see? Think about the technological, economic, or even social rivalries dominating our world right now. Just like the Moovendar, we're often so totally focused on who is winning today's battle that we miss the larger historical picture. What unified legacy are we inadvertently building for the generations centuries from now? It's a really provocative and deeply fascinating thought to keep in mind. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those great questions, and I'll catch you next time.